At the beginning, a boy was seen riding his bicycle. His name was Kimura. While riding, he noticed something strange on his way to school. He then looked ahead and saw a girl on top of a guy while the guy was murmuring in pain. The girl accused the guy of being a perv for touching her, while the guy insisted that she was the one who had bumped into him. Observing this, Kimura thought about how bumping into someone at a corner and ending up in a lucky perv situation was such a cliché. He continued writing and thought again that it was indeed a cliché situation. Then came abnormality number 2. A girl named Ayami appeared as a transfer student in Kimura's class. The teacher began to assign her a seat, but before the teacher could finish, Ayami suddenly questioned why Ei-kun was in the same class as her, while Ei-kun shouted the same thing at the same time. Kimura then thought to himself that it was yet another cliché, realizing that they would now be together both at home and at school. He found it hard to believe and wondered if this situation meant there would be a losing heroine, which he felt was impossible. Meanwhile, another girl was seen thinking about how Ayami was now present both at home and at school, right beside Kimura. A scene followed showing 2 girls standing with the boy positioned between them. Kimura thinks to himself that it was a strange story that seemed to revolve entirely around Ei-kun, making the whole world appear like a romantic comedy centered on him. Later, Ei-kun was seen sitting in class, while Kimura thinks to himself that even the conveniently empty seat right next to him, along with the conveniently placed double heroine, made everything seem too perfect. The scene then showed Ei-kun accidentally falling onto a girl while holding her breast, as Kimura thinks to himself that even the conveniently timed lucky perv moments seem to happen just for him. Then the girl called him the worst. Kimura thought that there was no possible way to explain this world unless it was a romantic comedy. Everything about it felt so old-fashioned, even the girl's reaction. Another girl then approached Ei-kun, asking if he was alright. That girl was Manaka Kawashima. The boy recognized her and thanked her, thinking to himself about how violent the other girl had been. Manaka Kawashima gently told him that he shouldn't say such things, reminding him that Ayami-chan had just transferred there. She smiled and added that he should be the one to support her. Kimura then thought that Manaka Kawashima had gone so far as to put her rival ahead of herself, realizing she was far too kind. Kimura then shouted that if she kept doing that, he would never notice her. Then the girl, Manaka Kawashima, then turned to Kimura and asked if he was well-versed in love, requesting him to teach her. Kimura thought to himself that this was how it all began. He made up his mind that by using every bit of knowledge he had gained from romantic comedies, he would make Manaka Kawashima win. The scene then shifted to both of them sitting in class. Kimura began by saying that they should first sort out the relationships. He asked Manaka Kawashima if she was childhood friends with Ei-kun, to which she replied yes. She explained that they were childhood friends but that she had moved away when she was 6. They used to be really close, although it seemed like Ei-kun did not remember her at all anymore. Kimura then asked her about a childhood marriage promise. Manaka Kawashima looked shocked at the question, and he clarified that he was asking whether the two of them had made a marriage promise. She replied that it was just a skit they had done while fooling around, though she admitted that it had indeed happened. Kimura then told her that this was exactly what she needed to bring up. He continued, saying that her character was currently too weak to compete with Takabe, as she had no edge and no sharpness. Shocked, Manaka Kawashima repeated his words. Kimura went on, saying that Takabe was a textbook tsundere, full of contrast, and that her sharpness was amazing. He noted that her impact just kept piling up, gesturing with his hand to show how much. Manaka Kawashima listened carefully as he explained that she would need to fight back with a fast episode. He instructed her to go tell Ei-kun one more time and lay her feelings bare, saying that whoever put everything out there first would win. Manaka Kawashima proudly responded that she understood. The scene then shifted to show her and Ei-kun outside. She told Ei-kun that she was the girl from back then and asked if he remembered her. Ei-kun looked surprised and asked what she had said, explaining that the wind was too loud. He then blushed and shyly told her to never mind. From behind, Kimura was seen shouting that the teacher was looking for her, calling out, "Sensei is looking for you, Kawashima." Kimura scolded Manaka Kawashima, asking why she had dodged the situation in such an overused way again. Manaka Kawashima replied in a flustered tone, repeatedly saying no. Kimura told her that he understood that the thought of Ei-kun not remembering her was scary, but before he could finish explaining further, she interrupted him, blushing deeply and admitting that seeing Ei-kun up close was so cool that she had completely blanked out. Kimura advised her to first make Ei-kun remember that she was his childhood friend and that they had made a marriage promise. He added that she should create a clear contrast between how she was back then and how she is now. He urged her to go soon and to use her twin tails to fully fuel her Tsun side, referring to her tsundere nature. Manaka Kawashima, still uncertain, said that if she suddenly acted like that, she would just seem emotionally unstable. Kimura asked if she had any memories with Akun. Manaka Kawashima thought for a moment and said there used to be a park nearby where they always played together. Kimura thinks to himself that a park full of memories was perfect. He told her to send Akun an anonymous letter saying that she would be waiting at the park. Surprised, Manaka Kawashima asked what he meant. Kimura explained that the town had a ridiculous number of parks, and a map was shown illustrating this. Manaka Kawashima agreed with his reasoning. He continued, saying that if she simply wrote that she would be waiting at that park, most people would have no idea which park she meant. But if Akun truly remembered the park of memories, he would definitely come. Kimura imagined a scene of Akun and Manaka Kawashima meeting at the park as he continued, explaining that once they met there, Akun would surely remember their past as well. He told her that right at that moment she should confess. Placing his hands on her shoulders, he said it with confidence. Blushing hard and surprised, Manaka Kawashima repeated the word confess in disbelief. Kimura firmly told her that of course she had to. He explained that the park of memories, a childhood friend, and a classmate who once made a marriage promise, there was nothing left but a confession. Kimura continued by telling Manaka Kawashima to listen carefully, explaining that the longer a heroine race drags on, the harsher it becomes. A reference then appeared to another anime, The 100 Rivals Who Really Love Akun, where the girl was notably absent. Kimura went on to say that if she was going to settle things, she should do it in a short and decisive battle. Manaka Kawashima nervously said that she couldn't do it, but Kimura encouraged her, insisting that she could. The scene then shifted to both of them walking home from school. Manaka Kawashima stuttered as she wondered what she should do, worrying about what would happen if he wasn't there. She admitted that she had a feeling Akun wouldn't show up. When she met him after so long, he hadn't remembered her, and she couldn't help but feel that everything they shared was just a thing of the past for him. That was why she was scared. Kimura reassured her, saying that it wasn't like that. He told her that most likely, Akun remembered, but he simply hadn't connected the Kawashima from the past with the Kawashima she had become now. He said that it only meant she had grown that much more charming and told her not to put herself down. Manaka Kawashima smiled shyly and told him that he was flattering her too much, calling him Kimura-kun. Kimura then said that in a romantic comedy, the person one is waiting for will definitely show up. Manaka Kawashima asked if that was really so. As they continued walking, they eventually arrived at Sakura Park. Manaka Kawashima said that maybe Akun really didn't remember the past, insisting that there was no way Ayami would remember. She kept repeating that there was just no way. But then, Akun was shown standing in the park. Manaka Kawashima's face lit up with joy when she saw him, exclaiming internally that he was there. Kimura declared that it was Kawashima's victory, and urged her to go get him. Kawashima confidently replied, yes. However, suddenly, another voice called out, saying, Ayami, what do you want? It was then revealed that Ayami was also at the park. Kimura was completely shocked upon seeing her. He quickly thought to himself that he understood now it must have been that, since the park was so close to school, it had just become Ayami's usual spot on her way home. Akun then asked Ayami if she was the one who had given him the letter. Kimura panicked internally, realizing that at this rate, Akun would think Takabe was the one who had sent it. Akun asked Ayami how she even knew about the park. Ayami replied casually, saying that she just used it as a shortcut on her way home. Kimura then urged Manaka Kawashima to hurry, saying that she could still make it. Manaka Kawashima looked toward Akun and quietly said that perhaps they had played there when they were little. Akun suddenly realized it and said to Ayami that it was her all along. Kimura thought there was still time for Kawashima and told her to go right then, insisting she could still make it, but his words were cut off midway. Kawashima then said that for Akun, it was already just something from the past. She accepted it, saying that once again, she had lost. Kimura refused to accept that and immediately rode off on his bicycle, thinking that since the school was close to the park, there was still a way. As he rushed back to the school, someone called out to him from behind, asking what he thought he was doing and reminding him that it was the broadcast room. Kimura quickly apologized and said that he was just borrowing it. He explained to himself that he had always played the losing side, but just for that day, he wanted her to win. Then, speaking into the microphone, he made an announcement. Takabe-san from 1B. Ayami Takabe-san, please come to the faculty office immediately. After a short pause, he added one more message, saying loudly, and one more thing, to the one with no confidence, the one who can't move forward, Kimura-kun. Your past, painted over with the one you are now. The scene then shifted to Kawashima, calling out to Akun. Akun turned around to face her, and Kawashima began to speak, starting with I, before the scene transitioned again. It was nighttime when Kawashima met Kimura. Kimura asked what she was doing there and whether she had not gone home with Akun. Kawashima said that Akun had gone back first but praised Kimura-kun, saying he had been amazing. Kimura thought to himself about how badly he had been scolded afterward, but remembered it while imagining his past. He then asked her what Akun's reply had been to her confession. Kawashima repeated her question, saying, his reply, I did it. Kimura, confused, asked if she meant, I did it, like celebrating a success, but she quickly corrected him, saying it wasn't like that she had just asked Akun about homework. Kimura shouted in frustration that that was not what she should have asked, reminding her that in that situation, there was something much more important to care about than homework. Kawashima agreed but explained that Akun had said his little sister had a fever and wanted to keep the conversation short. Kimura thought to himself that even having a little sister was typical of the main character role. Kawashima then said that just the fact that Akun had remembered her from when they were little was enough to make her happy. Kimura asked her if she had really waited all that time just to tell him that, and what she would have done if she and Akun had missed each other. Kawashima replied that they couldn't have missed each other because Kimura-kun himself had told her that in a romantic comedy, the person you are waiting for will definitely show up. She said she chose to believe in that. The scene then shifted again. Kimura said that Akun really didn't know what he was missing and that, if it were him, he would have chosen Kawashima without a doubt. Shocked and blushing, Kawashima asked what that was supposed to mean. Kimura told her that he meant it literally, that he liked her. Kawashima blushed even harder, and Kimura added that he wouldn't have gone this far if he didn't mean it, but admitted that he couldn't step in between those three because the world had no interest in him. Still blushing deeply, Kawashima softly said, I see, me? Kimura then thought to himself that this was, at the very least, his way of restating things. Kawashima always ended up with the short end of the stick, and he just wanted her to catch a break this time and have something good happen to her. He thought that she truly was an unlucky girl. Kawashima blushed again as she listened to him, and in the end, they both went home together while Kimura thought to himself, so, I want her to win. Next week, in Class 1B, the teacher announced that they would be changing seats. Everyone in the class was shocked at the news. Kimura thought that this was the perfect chance. If Akun and Kawashima ended up sitting next to each other, they could naturally close their distance. It was a super shortcut to becoming a winning heroine. Kawashima, happy, noted that they were changing seats. She thought that such arrangements were usually decided by lottery in situations like this and realized she would need some kind of strategy. However, the teacher explained that the seats would be rearranged based on the results of the next midterm test. Both Kimura and Kawashima were shocked to see their results. Kimura scored 18 out of 36, while Kawashima scored 36 out of 36. Akun, on the other hand, received a result of 1 out of 36. The scene then shifted to show the school in the background. Kimura reflected that it was a recent trend in rom-coms for the main character to be smart. Akun was seen solving the problem given by the teacher, and Kimura thought that this naturally applied to Akun as well. Kawashima struggled to solve the problem, and the teacher scolded her, allowing her to return to her seat. Kimura thought that such kindness was painful. He continued thinking that the double heroine, along with his perfect grade, increasingly convinced him that this world was a rom-com centered around Akun. In the background, Akun was sitting at his seat, and Kimura thought that it would be absurd to assume otherwise. Both Akun and Ayami were seen pouting while looking at each other. Kimura thought that it was unusually noisy behind him that day. More importantly, he reflected that the seats would be rearranged according to the next midterm results. Akun's grades were undoubtedly number 1, and if Kawashima could get the seat next to Akun, the romantic tension would skyrocket naturally. It would be a galore of rom-com progress. A reference to another manga appeared briefly, showing Kawashima sometimes suddenly shouting in Japanese. Kimura continued thinking that Kawashima had to get the seat next to him and wondered if there was a quick way to improve her grade. While walking down the hallway, Kimura noticed Kawashima on the ground, surrounded by a pile of books and looking very flustered. He approached her and commented on how she was helping out the teacher again, noting that she was such a softie an intangible cultural heritage heroine. Kawashima repeated his words with a questioning expression. Intangible cultural heritage heroine. Kimura then suggested hurrying to take the books to the reference room. At that moment, Kawashima recalled the words Kimura had said to her in the past. Because I like you, Kawashima. Those words lingered in her mind, and she expressed her gratitude to Kimura, asking how she should take his, I like you from yesterday. Kimura, understanding her, exclaimed, I see, and added that he liked how straightforward she was with her feelings. Kimura noticed Kawashima and observed that her eyes lit up whenever it was about Akun, finding it fun to see her getting all lovey-dovey. He thought he wanted to see a losing heroine like her actually win, and if he were to rephrase what he said yesterday, it would be, I like you. Kawashima blushed at that moment, but Kimura continued, saying that he was her #1 fan. She reacted, trying to clarify, but admitted that she had totally misunderstood on her own. Kimura repeated her word, misunderstood, and she quickly corrected herself, saying that wasn't what she meant. Kimura explained that, as the first step to winning, Kawashima needed to become friends with Akun. Kawashima asked if that meant she looked more than just a friend to him right now, and Kimura commented that it was some seriously positive thinking. He reminded her that in a classic rom-com, the heroine doesn't suddenly become the girlfriend. In other words, a girl who isn't even a friend is treated the same as background scenery. Kawashima protested that this was ridiculous, but Kimura pointed out that in reality she was too nervous to even talk to Akun, which made the seat change a perfect opportunity. Sitting next to him would naturally bring them closer, and if Akun taught her, they would get along even better. Kawashima admitted that it would be scary if he got disappointed in her for not knowing something so simple. Kimura thought that was pathetic, reassuring her that it wasn't that bad, and even Akun wouldn't say that. Kawashima challenged him to take a look for himself, and Kimura agreed. The scene then shifted to show both of them in the library. While Kimura shouted at Kawashima for not understanding something so simple, Kawashima began to cry. Kimura continued, pointing out the formula and questioning how she had even managed to pass the entrance exam. Kawashima explained that during exam preparation, her little brother had tutored her for 15 hours a day for a whole year. Kimura was surprised she had gone that far. Kawashima added that Akun had always been good at studying, so she had figured he would definitely get into a top school. Kimura congratulated her on passing, and Kawashima said that she wanted to become someone who could proudly walk beside Akun. Kimura thought to himself that Akun was becoming more and more defiled. Kawashima then asked how to solve a particular part, and Kimura began explaining, trying to figure out the best way to teach her. At that moment, someone else entered the library. It was Ayami. She explained how to apply the formula, and Kawashima noticed her, greeting her with Ayami-chan. Kimura also recognized her and thought, Akun's fiancé. Ayami asked if they were having a study session, and Kawashima confirmed, inviting Ayami to join. Kawashima added, 3 bread are better than buns after all. Ayami corrected, it's heads, okay? Kimura thought to himself that Ayami was so hopelessly silly. Ayami admitted that she hated studying, and Kawashima agreed, saying that she could grasp most things from class and that everything was written in the textbook anyway, so she didn't see the point in spending extra time studying. Hearing this, Kawashima felt a stab to her heart and thought to herself that this was what it meant to be a winning heroine. Kimura thought to himself, don't lose Maken Kawashima. Meanwhile, a panel showed Kawashima cracking down into pieces, murmuring, is that so? Kimura thought to himself that if things continued like this, the group lineup would be set. He pictured Akun, Ayami-chan, and 2 other students standing in a line, each labeled with their ranks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. He wondered if it was really going to be like that. Just then, Akun entered the library, asking what they were doing. Kawashima's face lit up as she greeted him, saying, Akun. Immediately, Ayami and Akun began arguing. Ayami scolded him, asking how he dared show his face there and talk to her, while Akun replied that he wasn't talking to her. Kawashima pleaded for them to stop, but the argument continued. Ayami reminded him that he had barged in on her in the bath just yesterday, calling him Hiraguchi. Akun retorted to stop calling him that and explained that it wasn't like looking made anything disappear, it had been mutual anyway. Kimura thought to himself that, in fact, something did disappear. Their argument went on, with Ayami telling them to take a bath. Kimura reflected that half of Kawashima's HP had disappeared at the very least. Kawashima blanked out, and Kimura urged her in his thoughts to snap out of it and regain her emotions. He wondered what even was happening, thinking that these two sounded like they belonged in an 80 seconds rom-com world. Ayami, frustrated, complained that Akun had even broken her headband, and Akun defended himself, saying she was at fault for leaving it there. Kimura tried to intervene, telling them to cut it out since they were in the library and pointing to a no-talking symbol, but Ayami insisted it had been something really important. Kimura realized that they weren't listening at all. The scene ended with the doors slamming as Ayami left the library. Everyone went silent as Kimura thought to himself that it was no wonder they had been in such a foul mood that morning. Remembering the morning scene, he saw Kawashima gesturing headbang while Akun reached into his pocket and pulled out a broken piece of headband, showing it to her. Kawashima exclaimed that it had broken clean in half. Akun then admitted that he didn't really understand girl stuff and asked if she would go shopping with him after class. Kawashima shouted with joy, and Kimura thought to himself, "Ah, here we go again." They went to buy a new headband together, and Takabe happened to see them. Just when Kimura thought their misunderstanding couldn't escalate further, Akun explained that they had only gone to buy a new headband together. Kimura imagined that this would end up being another event that deepened their relationship. While it must have seemed like a nice chance for Kawashima to go shopping alone with Akun, Kimura couldn't let that happen, and he reached out toward Kawashima. Kawashima told Akun that the headband must be irreplaceable for Ayami-chan, and even if he bought a new one, it wouldn't fill the void. She said it was really important to apologize sincerely. Akun agreed, saying that he would apologize when he got home. Kimura thought to himself that this was their Kawashima. She hadn't been swayed by what was right in front of her and had backed off on her own, which was what made her so admirable. Later, in class, Kawashima addressed Ayami, thanking her for helping her study and handing over the headband, explaining that it had been fixed after school yesterday. Kimura explained that it wasn't about whether they could or couldn't fix it, but that what mattered was taking action. Everyone researched how to repair the headband, and eventually, it was fixed. Kawashima handed it to Ayami, who became really happy. Kawashima admitted it was a little off, but Ayami stopped her, saying that it was something she had received from her mother. Akun apologized, and Ayami told him he could have just apologized sincerely from the start. Kawashima interjected, saying, All right. Kimura thought to himself that he was glad to see that. If Akun had just gone home, he would have worked hard to fix it alone, which would have only deepened the bond between them, something Kimura needed to prevent. Fixing it together with everyone was more efficient. Kawashima then told Ayami to thank Kimura-kun, saying that if he hadn't taken the initiative, things would never have turned out this way. Ayami acknowledged it, saying, I see, thank you. Kimura responded, and Ayami added that he should help Kawashima with her studies as well. Ayami agreed, saying that it was fine, and reminded Kawashima that seat changes were based on grades. She asked Kawashima what rank she had received last time, and Kawashima replied, 36. Ayami exclaimed that it was dead last in the class and warned that she would drill her hard for the following week. Kawashima screamed in response, Eek. The scene shifted to show Kawashima and Ayami looking at the ranking board. The midterm class rankings revealed that Akun was first as always, while Kawashima was once again dead last at 36th rank. Ayami, holding Kawashima's shoulder and shaking it, asked why her rank hadn't changed despite proper teaching. Kawashima explained that she had been so overwhelmed that she couldn't understand anything and repeatedly apologized. Kimura thought to himself, incredulous, that he must be kidding. He had thought that with Takivi teaching her, achieving a high rank wouldn't be just a dream, especially since Takivi had gotten second place. At that rate, he worried about where his seat would end up. The ranking board then showed Takivi at 18th place and Kimura at 19th. The scene ended there. Takabe and Kimura were seen together, and Kimura remarked that he would rather be in the same group as his friends if he had the chance. Takabe commented that she had figured Manaka would at least be somewhere around this part of the ranking. Kimura thought to himself that this meant she had aimed for the middle of the ranking on purpose, which was even harder than taking first place. The teacher then announced that it was time to decide the seats, starting with the front row, first place and 36th place. Akun and Kawashima were shown, with Kawashima looking shocked. The teacher explained that the seating was not strictly by grade order. The school's policy emphasized mutual improvement, meaning that being seated next to someone more capable helped a student grow. Additionally, arranging students strictly by rank could lead to deliberate clustering and imbalance. Kimura thought to himself that, in the end, it wasn't this kind of order after all. The teacher announced that the group segment had concluded and instructed everyone to move to their designated seats. The class began rearranging, and their respective ranks were displayed. Akun noted that he and Kawashima were now seat neighbors, and Kawashima confirmed. Kimura, sitting behind them, thought to himself that it was finally here, a shortcut to becoming a winning heroine, but also reflected that it was a pain to be near her. Ayami remarked that at least she didn't have to see Akun's face anymore, which was a relief, and added that Manaka and Wave were with her. Kawashima greeted her with Ayami-chan, and Akun responded casually, telling her to keep talking. Kimura thought that, as expected, the winning heroine wouldn't be dealt with so easily, noting that she really had the power to seize the spot around the main character. Ayami added that Kimura should also consider her, pointing to him with a question mark. She reminded him that she still hadn't repaid her debt. Kimura noted that she had taught Kawashima how to study, but Ayami said it didn't count since Kawashima had ended up dead last. Kimura held her hand and thanked her, feeling a happy surprise that Takebi had turned out to be a good girl. He thought he needed to properly show his gratitude. It was then Kawashima's turn for a full-on attack. She told Kimura that if he hadn't given her the chance, the seat wouldn't have been this much fun, and that all of it was thanks to him. Kimura, surprised, admitted that he hadn't been thinking that far ahead. Meanwhile, Ayami wondered to herself what had just happened.